Welcome to Daily Verse Devotion, where Scripture meets the signs of our time and truth echoes louder than fear. Today's message is not just a report, it is a prophetic alarm, a wake-up call for the soul. What you are about to hear may disturb you. It may stir something deep within your spirit, but above all, it will remind you of the unshakable hand of God moving through history. This is not about politics, not about media spin. This is about prophecy. This is about a nation, long misunderstood, that may hold a key to the end-time puzzle. Stay with us, open your heart, and prepare for a journey into revelation, resistance, and redemption. Now, we begin with part 1. America withdraws, Iran stands firm, the unyielding flame. June 2025. Amid escalating tensions between Iran and Israel, something unexpected unfolded. Satellite images revealed that the U.S. military had quietly withdrawn dozens of heavy aircraft from Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar, the largest American military installation in the Middle East. International media quickly raised the question, was the United States afraid of a potential Iranian counterstrike? Or was it simply a tactical move to minimize losses? Whatever the reason, one truth was undeniable. Iran did not back down. In fact, that very moment became a declaration, a revelation of the unyielding spirit of a nation that has long forgotten how to surrender. As the region teetered like a powder keg ready to explode, the geopolitical tremors grew stronger than ever. Russia, through former President Dmitry Medvedev, stunned the world with a chilling statement. Some countries are ready to directly provide nuclear warheads to Iran. He later clarified that Russia would not do so itself, but coming from a man closely tied to President Putin, the message was heard loud and clear. At the same time, North Korea, a longtime missile partner of Iran, was reportedly supplying advanced long-range weaponry and modern drones. Together, Iran, Russia, and North Korea are quietly forming a powerful, unofficial alliance directly opposing the U.S.-Israel axis and its Western allies. Since the Islamic Revolution of 1979, Iran has never flinched under pressure. Diplomatically isolated, economically sanctioned, militarily encircled, labeled a state sponsor of terrorism. Yet Iran has persevered, building infrastructure, advancing science, launching satellites, and enduring challenges that would crush most nations. And now, in these volatile days, with Israel threatening to erase Iran from the map, and American forces moving with unprecedented caution, Iran still stands. Not merely with missiles or firepower, but with faith, the belief that this land is sacred, the conviction that it has been divinely entrusted to be defended. It is no coincidence that in the Bible, Iran, formerly known as Persia, holds a unique role. King Cyrus is called the Anointed One, who freed the Jewish people. The prophet Daniel lived, worked, and shone God's light in the Persian courts. Esther, the heroine of Scripture, risked her life in the palace of Persia. Sacred history has placed Iran in the stream of divine events. And today, many believe that Iran continues to be a vital piece in the puzzle of the end times. The spirit of holy resistance carried by the Iranian people is not merely armed with weapons. It is fueled by sacred rage, a channeling of national fury into spiritual duty. They do not fight for political dynasties. They fight for faith, for honor, for a sacred trust they believe was given by God Himself. When we survey the Middle East today, one thing becomes clear. This is not merely a battlefield of nations, it is a battlefield of spirits. Iran emerges as more than a country defending borders. It is a heart resolved to resist corruption, greed, and oppression, a soul determined to hold fast to belief, even at the edge of annihilation, surrounded by the greatest powers on earth, blamed by the global media, threatened on all sides, yet still Iran remains. the unyielding flame. You may not admire them, you may not agree with them, but you cannot deny them. They stand, and in their standing, they declare to the world, some things in life cannot be conquered by bombs or sanctions, only by a faith that burns too deeply to die. The Iranian people, a nation of sacrifice, loyalty, and faith. Amid fire, over the past few days, yesterday, the day before, and even today, as a temporary ceasefire hangs like a thin mist over a firestorm. The people of Iran live under the sound of sirens, the flash of rockets, and the steady rhythm of prayers echoing through their streets. What the world sees is not fear, but calm courage. A quiet dedication from a people who have stood at the edge of death many times and still refuse to retreat. On June 27, 2025, Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei reappeared in public after days of silence. In his first address since the ceasefire with the US and Israel, he warned, if America strikes again, Iran will respond immediately. The statement was thunderous, like lightning piercing the false calm. It wasn't just a threat, it was a vow, spoken with the weight of a nation behind it. At the same moment, former US President Donald Trump, now leading the 2025 election campaign, made a shocking comparison. He likened America's attack on Iran's nuclear facilities to the atomic bombings of Hiroshima, not merely military boasting, but a chilling insight into how far the US might go. And still, the Iranian people remain composed. They do not shrink into silence. They step into the light. They pray in mosques. They study. They work. They care for their families. They live as if to say, we will not vanish quietly. Mothers send their sons to the front. Children study beside bomb shelters. Young men line up to volunteer at the borders. This is not propaganda. This is real. They are not fighting for a regime. They are fighting for home, for faith, for the soul of a people who still carry the fire of ancient Persia in their blood. Their sacrifices are not blind. They are chosen. The Iranian people know if they lose their identity, they will be consumed by global machinery. If they lose their faith, they become bodies without souls. So every step toward danger, every second on the edge of death is sacred. They do not die for politics. They live for something greater than life itself. Khamenei, with silver hair, a white turban, and steady eyes, stands not only as a political figure, he is a symbol, a voice for millions who suffer quietly, but stand unbroken. When he says Iran will respond, it is not a call to war. It is a covenant. This people will not let others write their fate, from the snow-capped north to the scorched deserts of the south. From borderlands to narrow Tehran alleys, Iran lives with heightened alert, but not in fear, in awareness, awake not just to death, but to the value of life, a life with faith, with freedom, with dignity. That faith, the one so many have tried to crush, is what keeps Iran from falling. Surrounded, sanctioned, bombed, threatened, still they pray, still they live, still they stand. And if total war comes tomorrow, the world will see. Iran is not alone. They are backed by something no nation can produce, an unshakable belief in a sacred mission. They don't chase glory. They don't seek riches. They fight to preserve what their ancestors left behind: honor and faith. Between nuclear fire and falling ash, the light in Iran still burns. Not the light of flames, but the light of soul. A soul that cannot be threatened by bombs, because it was born from a faith that cannot die. The siege of sanctions, a trial by fire, when the world turned its back, when the gates of global trade slammed shut, when the voices of the powerful echoed with accusations and threats, Iran stood, unbent, unbowed, unbroken. It was not just a political standoff, it was a spiritual crucible, a furnace of affliction forged by years of suffocating sanctions. But look closer. Even under pressure, Iran did not collapse. Its soul did not wither. Its spirit did not retreat. Instead, it adapted. It resisted. It grew. Factories turned their machines with whatever they had. Scientists solved problems the world refused to help fix. Mothers fed families with less, but raised children with more resolve. Fathers bore burdens they didn't deserve, with dignity they never lost. The world watched and expected to see failure, but they misunderstood the nature of this people. They are not driven by comfort. They are not fueled by luxury. They are rooted in something deeper. Conviction, history, faith, every embargo, every sanction meant to cripple, instead carved out a deeper hunger for freedom. And does that sound familiar? It should, because the Bible is filled with stories just like this. Joseph, betrayed, sold, and imprisoned, yet rose to save nations. Daniel, exiled, forbidden, and thrown to lions, yet stood unshaken in his God. And Iran? She too has been cast into the den, surrounded by economic lions, diplomatic claws ready to tear. But somehow, she walks forward, still breathing, still believing. And in this pressure, something ancient is being reawakened. A prophetic fire, a call to endure, a whisper from the pages of history. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Matthew 5:10. This is not about agreeing with policies or defending governments. This is about the undeniable strength of a people who refuse to be broken because they know their value was never in what the world gave. Their purpose was never in the hands of men. It has always been written, in prophecy, in suffering, in fire. And fire does not destroy gold, it purifies it. The Persian oath to guard the land. The land of Persia is no ordinary soil. It has been watered by the blood of martyrs, plowed by the prayers of prophets, and guarded by the oath of a people who refuse to let it fall into the hands of the arrogant. They do not see this land as a commodity, but as a trust, a sacred trust, passed from fathers to sons, from mothers to daughters, from the cries of ancient warriors to the whispers of modern ones. We will not let it fall. That is the oath, and it is not spoken, it is lived. When empires rose and fell, Persia endured. When invaders marched through fire and steel, the mountains of Iran stood still, as if to say, not here, not again. And today, in an age of drones and data, jets and geopolitics, that same oath remains alive. From the watchtowers of Tabriz to the deserts of Yazd, from the shores of the Caspian to the gates of the Persian Gulf, the oath echoes. And it's not merely national pride, it's spiritual stewardship. Because Persia remembers something the modern world has forgotten, that some lands are not owned, they are assigned, entrusted by heaven. This is why, when sanctions try to starve, when bombs threaten to fall, when propaganda tries to shame, the Persian heart responds with silence at first, then prayer, then fire, not chaos, not recklessness, but a resolve as old as Cyrus and as sacred as Esther. If I perish, I perish, but I will not let this land be sold to Babylon. Esther 4:16, reimagined. There is something prophetic here, a resistance not just of flesh, but of calling. Persia, Iran, was never meant to blend into the nations. She was meant to stand apart, to confront the arrogant, to protect what is holy, to bear witness before the throne of God, that even in the last days there are still those who will not bow. To guard the land is to guard a promise, and to guard a promise is to stand, even when standing means fire, and that is the oath of Persia. A land set apart by fire and promise. The dust of the desert hides more than sand. It holds echoes of ancient vows, of fire, of promise. Iran, once called Persia, is not merely a nation drawn on maps. It is a land consecrated in the pages of prophecy, a land set apart by the voice of God himself. While the world sees oil and politics, heaven sees destiny. This is the soil where Daniel knelt, where Esther rose, where Cyrus the Great was named by God over a century before his birth. Who else has been named in Scripture, guessed him before breathing their first breath? Only a land chosen, only a land marked. And yet, fire has never left its borders. Empires rose and fell, but the flame never died. The kings changed, but the covenant remained. For the fire was not only one of war, it was the fire of refinement. Iran has bled, been betrayed, mocked, sanctioned, threatened, yet still it stands. Why? Because there is an unseen hand holding it upright. And every time it's pressed down, it rises again. Not just by will, but by calling. There is a fire in this nation that no empire could extinguish, because it does not come from man. It was lit by something eternal, a promise that this land would play a role again at the end of the age. The ancient prophets spoke not just of Israel, but of Elam, of Media, of Persia. They saw this land not as a footnote, but as a force. And today, even the trembling of nations proves it. When Israel moves, the world watches. But when Iran rises, the world fears. Because something deep within humanity knows this nation is not ordinary. This is not just geopolitical tension. This is the stirring of prophetic alignment. And the fire that began in Eden's east still burns in the land of Persia. It is the fire of resilience, of remnant, of return, the return of the king. In every ancient story, there comes a moment when the silence is broken, when the exiled king returns. That moment is near. Across the earth, kingdoms are crumbling. The great powers of the world, they stagger like drunken men. Their weapons are loud, but their foundations are hollow. Israel, Iran, two ancient names now etched on the headlines of the final chapter. But this story is not about missiles. It's about a throne that has never been vacated in heaven, but will soon be revealed on earth. The return of Jesus Christ, the Lion of Judah, will not come quietly. He is not returning as a lamb. He is coming as a king, a judge, a warrior, and before him every nation will bow. Yes, even the proud, even the defiant, even those who curse his name. They will see him coming in power and great glory, and his feet will stand on the Mount of Olives. The earth will shake, the skies will split, and the veil will be torn forever. But here's the mystery. Even now, in the tension between Iran and Israel, you can hear the rumbling of his return. Because God is not passive in war. He is strategic. He is sovereign. He uses the clash of kingdoms to reveal his own. The same king who rode into Jerusalem on a donkey will return riding the clouds of heaven, and his crown will not be made of thorns, but of many crowns, and he will judge the nations. Iran will not escape his gaze. Israel will not be forgotten, and the nations who mocked his name will tremble. This is not just the return of peace. It is the return of authority, of justice, of truth. And when he comes, there will be no more debates. Only one banner will remain: King of Kings, Lord of Lords. So prepare, watch, pray. The wars of men are only shadows. The real war is for the soul of nations. And the king is on his way. The unseen hand of God over Persia. Even as empires rose and fell, even as kings plotted and nations warred, the hand of God moved quietly, steadily, behind the curtain of history. Long before the world's eyes turned toward Iran with suspicion or fear, he saw a nation with destiny in its bones, a land marked for purpose. For what other reason would the Lord stir the heart of a Persian king? Cyrus to release his people? Why would he anoint a Gentile ruler to rebuild his temple, if not to declare to the world that his sovereignty knows no borders? Persia was not merely a backdrop in biblical history. It was a chosen stage. Esther, hidden in the palace. Mordecai, watching at the gate. Haman, plotting in the shadows. And in the midst of it all, God, unseen but never absent. It was in Persia that God turned a decree of death into a celebration of life. It was in Persia that the Jewish people were preserved, not by might, not by sword, but by the orchestration of divine providence. Do you not see it? The same land the world calls dangerous. He once called his vessel. The same soil that now stands at the center of global tensions was once the ground where heaven rewrote the fate of a people. And still, he moves. Even today, though eyes are blind and ears are deaf, God's purposes are unfolding in Iran, in silence, in secrecy, but with unstoppable force. Behind every headline, beneath every conflict, there is a stirring. A remnant is awakening. Prayers are rising in hidden rooms. The word is spreading underground. And the Spirit is whispering to hearts long forgotten. For the Lord has not abandoned this land. He remembers his work, and he will finish what he started. When the world sees instability, God sees soil ready for seeds. When leaders speak of war, he prepares for revival. This is not the end of Persia. This is the beginning of her awakening. And in the days ahead, when the nations tremble and the world watches in fear, those with eyes to see will know. It is not chaos. It is divine choreography. It is the hand of God once again moving over Persia. A final wake-up cry. If this message stirred something in your spirit, don't let it pass like a fleeting thought. You were meant to hear this. You were meant to feel this. This is not just a story about Iran or Israel. It's a call to every believer to watch, to pray, and to prepare. God is aligning the nations. Prophecy is unfolding before our very eyes. And while the world sleeps, the remnant must rise, share this message, let it echo beyond the borders of fear and into the hearts of those who are still searching for truth. Subscribe to this channel, not for numbers, but to become part of a voice that will not be silenced in the coming storm. And if you desire to go deeper, to uncover more mysteries of Scripture, prophecy, and the divine hand moving in our generation, download our free eBook, 31 Days Closer to God. It's not just a devotional. It's a journey of fire, revelation, and awakening. You were born for such a time as this. Now is the hour. Take your place. Lift your voice. Stand with truth, because what's coming will shake everything that can be shaken. But those who are rooted in him, will